Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Complete Order Control with SalesPad for BC. My name is Dean Holmes. I am the product marketing manager here at Cavallo. I have over 30 years in technology industry helping customers drive success, and I am based in San Francisco for the folks that heard our conversation there. I love to hike around the city as well as outside of the city. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I love live music and dancing. I am joined by Colin Orlando. He is the lead product manager for SalesPad for BC. He's got over 8 years in distribution, both in operations as a user as well as here at Cavallo, which has his 5 years split between a sales engineer, man of my own heart, and product. He's based in Grand Rapids, as you might have heard, and he's a huge Detroit Red Wings fan, which by the way, Colin, you and I haven't talked about the fact that I attended the Game 7 in 2011 when my San Jose Sharks beat your Red Wings, but we can have that discussion another time.
Yeah, let's not do that.
All right. I have a few housekeeping items to mention before we get started today. You can expect about a 30 to 40-minute presentation followed by Q&A. Feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to view it on our YouTube page within the next 24 hours, share it with your team, share it with family, all of that. All right, with that, we're going to dive right in. Here at Cavallo, we truly believe that the order is the heartbeat of distributor profitability. It's where you can make a profit or you can lose it. We actually just did a really good webinar called "The Future of Profit Maximization for Distributors." Our CEO was talking a lot about how all the small changes in things like pricing and cost can have an outsized impact on your profitability. And having control of those things and visibility into every order is key to maximizing that profitability. And Colin, I know you hear that all the time with the folks with the customers that you're talking to when you're talking about our platform here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we might even have some visuals to show the group here on the slide deck with some of the different statuses that we'll see coming up here
Yeah.
here in a moment.
And for controlling that, like right, handling how to handle your processes, it's not always easy, right? We all understand that distributors run at speed, and but speed without controls is dangerous, right? Mistakes equals lost profit. Um, Pricing errors slip through the cracks, right? So whether that's a cost lower, higher cost than last time or a lower price than last time, all those things affect your margin. Your sales reps, they can prioritize speed, not profit, right? They want to close the deal. Maybe they run a discount out there that was unauthorized or maybe higher than necessary to close the deal. That all hurts you, right? Manual touch points in the process. The more manual touch points you have, I know that's one when you talk to folks about BC calling all the time.
Huge.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they got to get in there. And it's like, oh, every time I got to open this back up and I gotta put a note in and I gotta send it back on the line and I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah, exactly. And all of
And
that
then,
to say humans, ultimately are the ones we're the ones responsible for the errors at the end of the day. So
yep. And then, add on to that, like with these inefficient processes, that slows down your workflow, makes you less efficient. Managers don't see issues until after the orders have shipped, right? They can't necessarily see what's going on live in the platform. And when it comes down to it, margin leakage adds up really fast. And that's a big deal. These issues cost real, quantifiable, and significant dollars. And that's why we're here today, right? We even got our shirts on. I think somebody just commented, this is our Cavallo Stairway to Profit. We're all about helping our customers be more profitable. And so that's why we're here today is to help you talk about that. So Microsoft BC, it's amazing ERP, right? But it's designed to serve a broad audience. And for distributors, the out of the box capabilities don't necessarily provide a lot of control and visibility, for that quote to cash process. If you picture an order workflow, as we kind of got here in BC, from the time an order starts until it's shipped and invoiced, BC out of the box has, well, kind of limited document statuses. It makes it difficult to track an order or know where they are in the process. And I think, Colin, you're even going to kind of show some of this as we go along. And we already mentioned on, the process requires a lot of manual touch points, introduces room for errors. it can slow down the process, and it requires that you sort of have like a manual, SOP, right? What's our standard operating procedure? Well, it's written on this document here. This is what you got to do every time you place an order, and you got to make sure you check all those boxes. And if you miss one, well, oops, now we've got an order that's I'm not sure where it's at, right? And then if you want to go down the path of introducing automation to create guardrails, it's complex, it's time consuming, and a potentially costly endeavor because either you have to have someone in your organization that knows how to handle and create automation, or you have to pay a partner to do that. And it can make you reliant on others. It can make you reliant upon the IT team, and that can be a big part of it. Um, and actually, I think Colin, you're going to give us a taste of sort of how BC works without Cavallo SalesPad for BC running, just to kind of set the stage of, hey, out of the box, this is what kind of the pain can be for a distributor in the process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and grab the screen for us here in a.
Great.
And we'll take you exactly through that process here today. So, exactly what Dean was just expressing is with Business Central, you have a really limited number of order statuses and order visibility. And to be honest with you, as we've talked to a number of our customers in the ecosystem, that seems to be the number one pain point that we're serving here with our solution, which surprised me a little at first because we have all these cool automations, the workflow routing, business rules. But we're really entering here at ground floor. Like, how do you tell me where my order is at any given point? And so, if I'm a CSR or an order taker and a customer's calling me to find an order, I might take the natural path through Business Central and go to my sales orders page here inside of Business Central, which this gives me a list of all of the different orders that are in my system today. And just at this surface level, I can see the status column that BC provides, which is telling me essentially open or released. So one might be able to assume that an open status means we're still editing lines, still editing different header level fields, whereas a release status, this might tell us it's in the warehouse. But how do we get more granular than that? So again, if I'm an order taker and I hear an order number, let's say 1014, I can quickly navigate down to that order and see, okay, this order is released. It's for my south site. I might be able to take that one step further and dive in and start to try and figure out where exactly this order is in its life cycle because it's released. So maybe we can assume it's in the warehouse, maybe not. That might involve me putting a customer on hold, going down to the warehouse, asking a warehouse manager what's going on with the order. I can try and also go down to the line items and scroll through here different columns so we can see quantity to ship versus quantity shipped and quantity to invoice versus quantity actually invoiced. It's blank right now, so maybe nothing has actually happened so far in the warehouse. So let's go ahead and check maybe it's in the related documents area. And you can tell here, I'm just continuing to dig through the software and try to find answers to fit the customer's request on the line. But wouldn't it be nice if we had a solution here that would just give me all the answers I need without needing to dig through all of these screens? So that's what we'll get into a little bit later with our solution. I'll pass things back to Dean.
No, that's great. And it was interesting. You kind of did that from the point of view of a salesperson or someone's answering a customer question. But as a manager, I imagine it's probably somewhat the same, right? That visibility is you're looking at that list and saying, well, I've got a whole bunch of open orders. I have no idea what that really means.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's some tiles that you could click through, some filters you could apply, but ultimately you're still on sort of a treasure hunt for what you're looking for, which is the answer to the question, am I profitable right now?
Yep. Well, that's what we're here for. That's what Cavallo, that's where we come in. That's what we're here to talk to you about today. With SalesPad for BC, you get complete order control, right? Ensuring that every order is handled properly and efficiently, margin limits are maintained, and you get full order visibility. Um, that happens when you have workflows that match your business and not the other way around. So some of the things that we're bringing to the table with SalesPad for BC are configurable document workflows, right? So moving documents in a way that makes sense for your business. A full business rules engine, right? I know this is one that you hear a lot. Like, we've got some compliance, and we've got things that we need to check. Those business rules have been a huge boon for our customers that utilize that. Automated approval routing, right? Just the fact that, hey, if I've got exceptions or I've got things that I need to have a go by manager, I can automate that so they don't have to manually go in there. Real-time margin visibility. We didn't even talk about that when you were showing the BC side, and it'll be interesting when you show the other is, you don't know. Like, I'm adding lines to this. I don't know what kind of margin I'm making. If I add a discount, am I putting us underwater? There's not a lot of visibility there out of the box.
Right.
And then role-based dashboards, so the ability to see based upon your role in the org. and then understanding the history of what happened. If I want to look at an order from front to back and understand what happened during the process, if there was, a discount, where was it, why, who approved it, etc. So,
Yeah.
whether it's quoting, order entry, or returns, we give you the guardrails to protect margin and optimize your operations. So if we go back to our example of BC's out of the box workflows with those, limited statuses and sort of those gaps in between status where you maybe have to intervene manually or try to figure out what's going on. SalesPad augments the capabilities of BC and truly supercharges it for distributors. We've added 26 plus document statuses to give you more granular control and way better visibility. And I think Colin, you made sure I put that plus on there because you said that you got folks that are asking for new ones all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely not done adding those.
Yeah. And I know, we're showing this as a, for clarity and ease of visibility, we're showing this as a linear flow. But correct me if I'm wrong here, a lot of these processes can be running in parallel and running at the same time so that you're not being held up or one part of the process isn't necessarily holding up other parts of the process, correct?
Yeah, that's totally accurate. Automations handle a ton of what you're seeing on the screen here. This is just surfacing the visibility that the thing actually happened versus just
Yeah.
seeing a released versus open status, which is super ambiguous.
Yeah. Um, I mean, the big one I know you love the no code workflow builder.
I
You
do.
love it. You love it when I throw no code out there. But it is huge because I think as we've talked about earlier and you showed on the BC is that ability to create workflows and create automations can be very difficult if you don't have a lot of the skill sets. And we've designed our platform to make it so that it's easy. And I know you're going to show folks how that kind of happens and how that works as well.
Yep.
Custom fields. I'll let you give a little more information on that, but custom fields are obviously a big piece of almost any organization. Everyone has different ways of tagging things, noting things, the other applications that are pushing data in and out and where we use them. We have our own, we align with others, and we can talk a little more about that as well.
Yeah.
We're also bringing automated actions, right? We have a lot of automated actions to reduce manual tasks, eliminate costly errors, drive that efficiency, and ensure even the low margin orders don't slip through, right? Because again, that's when it really comes down to it. The margin that's in my order is the lifeblood of my business.
Absolutely. And time is money.
Yep. And then finally, business rules. I know you're going to talk about these, but aligning your process with your business requirements and your compliance. But that's enough talking about it. Let's get to the demo. This is where the rubber meets the road, and Colin's gonna be able to show you what this really means for folks that are inside BC. So I'm gonna let you show these fine people, and I think you're even gonna get started where we left off, which was you're actually gonna start from a manager's side of things, showing kind of their visibility, and then jump into kind of more of the user side.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. So when we're discussing the Mission Control Sales Pad for Business Central application, there's really two main parts to it. So Dean's hitting on the managerial or the business leader part of the application, which is what you're seeing on my screen here now. This is kind of that back end or the
Colin,
under.
you're not sharing right now. Sorry.
Oh, that's interesting. It's saying that I am on my screen, so I'll go ahead and replace the share. Let me know if you can see it here in a second.
We got you.
All right, perfect. I must have just shared too early. So here's the web application side of the house. So again, this is the business leader, the IT leader that Dean was alluding to a little bit earlier in the webinar. We like to make sure that we're empowering these organizations to name every single step in their unique process, right? So that's what this kind of view is going to get at here when we dive in is if you met one distributor, you met one distributor. We want to empower our IT staff or our operations leaders to be able to name each and every unique step of their business process and then utilize that in Business Central. So when we're talking about how does this actually get into BC, we have a technological connection there through an API and also an extension that's going to enable all of these different automations that you set up here in our web application to be used in Business Central and enforce the process that you as the business leader are setting up. So we'll start here on the workflow builder, and on the left-hand side of my screen, you'll see I have all of my different queues. This is my particular workflow, and I really like to hit home on that because you as the individual user get to name each step in your unique process. So if you're a SalesPad user, you understand this concept, and it's kind of been the bread and butter of what's made SalesPad so great is the capability to build and curate your own process. And now, once you have that process, we use majority of our screen here to start to add the different routings to all of our queues. So how does a new order go to the warehouse? How does a new order go to a dropship queue? And you'll see here by default, these are what we call primary paths. They goes to the warehouse from new order by default. But as we know, distribution has a ton of different channels, a ton of different conditions and paths. And you can see here, we have a number of those off of my new order queue. Anything from a drop ship required to a promo required to different customer checks around rushes and having no default credit card assigned. We can handle these in a no code way, as you kind of see here, reading in plain English to a user as they build these conditions out and select where the document inside of BC should be routed to. We also have on entry and on exit actions. And what that means is as documents are processing through the system and going from queue to queue, we can execute actions on the document movement. So what you're seeing here is when a document does end up in my warehouse queue, and what I'll show in the demonstration here in a moment in Business Central, is we're automatically going to reopen the document, authorize the credit card for its balance, reserve all possible inventory to that order, or for a SalesPad GP user, the allocate. We're going to create a pick document for any of that reserved or allocated quantity, along with a warehouse shipment at the same time. And we can even do things like trigger off webhooks. So this can be anything simple from you have a Zapier flow that notifies different groups inside of your organization that there's a new order to take action on, or as complex as something like a Power Automate flow. We can even trigger off a webhook at different spots in your workflow to set off Power Automate flows and allow them to start their automated processes. So we work better together with things like Zapier, N8N, Power Automate, and we can incorporate those into your business process here. Once we have all of our routings and our basic automations that we'd like in place, we start to layer on guardrails that we call business rules. And so this is really what, again, Dean was alluding to when we talk about how do we make sure that no margin leaks are occurring during the order process. So two super low-hanging fruit business rules that I have built into my system are margin review and credit hold. And here you can see again in plain English, this is how all of our conditions look. If any of my line items margin percent is less than 10%, go ahead and stop that order in its tracks. We can do that once or always, meaning we can cache the response. And if a sales rep goes back later and edits their margin, we can reflag that order. Or for whatever reason, the margin does change, we can flag the order. And then we select the queues to apply these rules to. So I have this in all of my queues with myself as the main approver. And then we're sending out emails to both the reviewers and the submitters. This is a big part of the process to eliminate bottlenecks and sitting orders as well, is notifying users that there's actually something to do. Users can have as many of these business rules as we like. We don't limit this, and you can build them out again in plain code, much more easy than an out-of-the-box approval from Business Central that's pretty rigid and focused on dollar amount approvals rather than actual business process. And last but not least, here we have those automatic actions that Dean talked about. And there's three main types. So we have what's known as a periodic, a scheduled, and a triggered action. So for those familiar with Automation Agent and SalesPad, this might also resonate as well. We have a periodic action. So this is something that's checking a specific condition on the document on a timer. We alluded to these statuses before, but wouldn't it be great if when your inventory is fully received from a PO, it's automatically moved to the next stage in its logical process, handling all automations that are a part of that move? We can do that with periodic actions here, and you're seeing every 15 minutes we're checking to see if the PO is fully received, and if it is, automatically move it from whatever queue it's in to its next queue. We also have what's known as triggered actions, and we'll see an example of that today. But as a SalesPad user, you might know these as auto forward or plus queues. Essentially, this means as a document moves through its workflow, it automatically does an action and then moves on. It basically doesn't stop in its workflow cycle until a human needs to intervene or something stops it. And what you'll see here is my order is going to qualify for a promo. We don't want the order to actually go to a promo items queue, sit and wait for a new individual to go in and add the line item. We just want to make sure the system knows the order qualifies for a promo, add the promo item and move it to the warehouse and allocate that inventory. So that's exactly what we're going to do here in a moment. And then last but not least, we have scheduled actions. So think of these as, like future orders is a great example. So if I have shipment dates within the next week, every Monday I'm going to check for that at 7:30 before business starts, and we'll move those documents into the warehouse to actually start processing. So super powerful, and it allows the workflow to really get as headless as any business would like it to be. Last but not least, when we talk about tailoring the workflow to a business, we have custom fields. And again, Great Plains or SalesPad users know these as user-defined fields, UDFs, or extender fields inside of GP. When we're talking about Business Central, we know them as custom fields. And out of the box with Business Central, you would need to write some code to actually have these fields be applied inside of Business Central. But with our product, we have two kind of variations of custom fields here. We have the capabilities to create a new custom field. So any specific field that you'd like based on any of these supported data types, apply them to a specific business object, and when you're ready to publish, click the button, and essentially it takes all of your plain English and turns it into AL code, installs the extension for you in Business Central and in our application so that you can leverage them inside the ERP and also as a part of your workflow process. Super important when we're talking about every distributor being different. And last but not least, we have integrate existing fields. So we also understand that Business Central is a wide product, right? And it's going to have a number of different softwares incorporated outside of Cavallo's. So things like Avalara for tax software, TaskLid, or InsightWorks for your WMS. We want to make sure that if those applications are adding value to Business Central in the form of different fields, we can bring those in as well to the system. So again, you'll see the publisher Avalara. We can bring in any Avatags field into Cavallo's workflow engine and make sure that it's a part of your routings and your business rules. Now, where do we go from here? We've built the business process, we've added our custom fields, everything's great. Well, we also have this managerial or business leader view of the dashboard. So we call it the mission control dashboard in the cloud. SalesPad users will know this view as Sales Monitor. It's all the same. It allows you to view the workflow that you've just curated and understand some super important questions as a manager without the need to enter the ERP system. So as a manager, I might come in here and utilize the save filters functionality for important customers, run a global search, or even take bulk actions on a number of my orders. But what I can also do is pan through each and every queue, each and every order, and understand super important answers. So exactly what's gone on with the order right now, and also, am I going to be profitable at the time the order hits the system rather than end of week, end of month reporting? We can answer that question by simply looking at this dashboard here. Now, any of these orders will link you directly into the ERP system, but I'm going to now manually move over to the ERP system and talk about how we actually process an order with the workflow that we've just built. So we're inside of Business Central. I've built this order directly before the webinar, so no super secrets going on here. This is a very standard order inside of BC, but we talked about this a little bit earlier in the webinar of where is my order? What's gone on with it at any given point? And with our application, you get full insights into that. And so what you'll see here is our workflow queue on the document header. We will put the workflow queue in as soon as you save the document for the first time. So by default, no matter which channel my order is coming in through, whether that be EDI, whether that be e-commerce, whether that's a standard order, everything hits new order and you can logically route them from there. We're also going to give you full document status visibility and business rule visibility. So these will update real time as certain events happen in the system. And ultimately, you'll see as we process the order through, these will change. We've entered two line items, one in stock, one out of stock. And as I mentioned previously, we also have this order qualifying for a promo. It's essentially hard coded if any desk item is added to add the promo item for us. So we'll see that as a part of our workflow submits as well. And then the answer to how do we actually utilize the workflow engine? Well, that's up at the top of the screen through the submit button here. So I'll go ahead and click the submit button. And as an order taker, you'll notice here that I am getting pop-ups on my screen for reviews. Now, this means that as an order taker, I'm breaking a number of my business rules that have been set up for my organization, and I need to have a manager actually approve them. So anything that we just set up in the web app, again, super important to reiterate that we're enforcing them in Business Central without users ever knowing that the workflow engine is there. So you build the process out and the process will be followed. And it's super important from a change management aspect as well. So if you have a new sales rep on board, they need to understand how to enter line items into Business Central. They don't necessarily need to know how to go create a shipment document and a pick document, reserve inventory. We let the system handle all of those different important automations and allow you as the business to name the steps that they happen in. So I'll go ahead and submit this for manager approval here. And you'll see that we have a workflow submit in progress. This is all asynchronous, meaning it's happening in the background. Users can move around, but super quick. And we'll see here now as a manager, I have to approve and reject this document. I have to make a business decision. Now we're locked in the business in the actual workflow queue here, so we can't move it. And there's a number of other areas within the ERP system that I can approve from. I'm just going to do it right here since we're on the order card itself.
So
And
you're acting as manager and salesperson here in this scenario.
I totally am. Yes, best of both worlds. I am making all the business decisions, and I'm actually able to now go in and, as a manager, select these different business rules that are broken and approve them. I have line visibility if it's a line rule, and mind you, I also had an email triggered off to me to let me know that there's something that I actually have to do here. So I'll go ahead and just approve this one, be nice today, and send it on through the system. And what's going to happen here is exactly what we discussed in the beginning of the webinar. So this is going to go from my new order queue into my warehouse, and it's going to run a number of automations. Things like automatically adding my promo item, reserving the inventory, authorizing my card, creating the warehouse pick and ship document in one click rather than needing to do all of these individual pieces themselves. And you can see here on the right hand side of my screen, all of these different processes have happened. And as we have been alluding to, full visibility into where the order is at any given point. So now, as a CSR or a sales rep, I can go into the system and confidently say, Mr. Customer, my document is currently sitting in the warehouse queue. I see it's got an open pick and ship, meaning that we haven't actually picked the document yet. But we also have a partial reserve and has quantity remaining status, which indicates to me there might be a back order. So we're going to still handle that for you and continue that conversation from there. Make it more of an educated and proactive conversation from a customer service lens. Now, this is true. I am actually partially reserved, and you can tell that we attempted to reserve all of the inventory to the order, but we're missing the second line item. And this indicates to us that there's a back order scenario at play here. We can logically route on that with our has quantity remaining status. And if I click the submit button one more time, we'll go ahead and see this document route up to my back order queue, auto generate the purchase order, and reserve the inventory from the purchase order back to the line. That part is super critical in Business Central because the way reservations work inside of BC is that the quantity available to a user is actually what's in the warehouse, what's coming in on purchase orders, what's on site to site transfers, and what's on returns. So I could technically be committing inventory to an order as a sales rep that isn't actually in my site. And by having a workflow tool that tells you when to reserve inventory, and also if you're creating a back order and PO scenario, linking that back to the sales line directly right away, you're ensuring that A, we understand this is coming in on a purchase order, not currently in the warehouse, and B, no other sales rep can take the inventory and allocate it for their own order. And we can see here, we're in the back ordered queue. We do have all of our statuses updating real time. And if you need to dig in any further, we do link them directly to the order as well. So we have this related documents window, and we place a number of these fields throughout the ERP system. And so as you continue your business processes, these will continue to update in real time. And I do want to reiterate, we work well with Tasklet, InsightWorks, any sort of WMS tool that uses base Business Central technology. We integrate very well with them, and as processes happen on the scan gun, you'll see them happen on our document statuses in real time as things are partially picked, fully picked, partially shipped, partially invoiced. All of that will be right here in your document statuses window. Now, I want to take us through a couple of more areas in the application where we add value. And because I started on the actual order card itself, I want to reiterate that we push this workflow into Business Central as well. So we have 3 tiles here. They all represent different dashboards. One showing all of the documents that need approval through business rules. One showing 2 documents that need my specific approval. And then mission control. This is all of my workflow queues that I've just built out. So you have that sales monitor view again inside of Business Central, that mission control dashboard view. And you can see, to Dean's point earlier, the average margin here, the total margin, and answer some of those super important questions before the order becomes an invoice. And what our SalesPad users really like about Sales Monitor also is the capability to pare down the screen to just the areas of the application that I need to pay attention to and work in. So maybe that's just these 3 queues. Go ahead and close it, and you pare down your view to just the 3 queues that you need to pay attention to and the document totals in those queues. Now you can take this one step further, drill into the warehouse queue here and see just the base level queue aggregated KPIs along the top. But also, again, like I wanted to reiterate earlier, is the document statuses, they're following us around the application. And so as I continue to scroll down this list, you're seeing all of our document statuses update in real time. You can link directly to those documents from here, and it's pretty much a one-stop shop to get you from point A to point B and understand all of the child documents that tie back to the parent. One last thing I want to touch on is we brought the audit logs over from SalesPad as well, or we call them activity logs now in the cloud. So if I do click the activity logs, we can load this from the order level, we can load this from our screens and several others within the application. But this is super important from a compliance perspective. This tells me exactly what's happened to an order, when it's happened, and who did it. And I can scroll down and see the document went into an approval queue. This person approved it. And then after the approval, all of these actions ran, and we took a card authorization for this number. So again, super important to have that full level of visibility that Business Central just simply doesn't offer to a user out of the box. And kind of to bring it all home, we'll end where we started here. We'll go back to the sales orders lookup screen inside of Business Central and pull up the list where we started with our CSR at the beginning of the call. So now as a CSR, I would have the enablement to look at the screen and say, I see all of these different orders. They're in my workflow queues. I can tell you exactly where the order is at any given point in its life cycle. I can also scroll down, filter, search, and see exactly what happened to the order at any given point. So bringing us back to that full circle ending of our product allowing you to have complete control of your orders within BC. Dean, I'll pass it back to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that difference, Colin, between even as you're showing it right there, right? Of all those statuses that just say open, that then and you've got the correlation there of what status we've added to that and giving you that much more granularity is, I think, such an important part of the solution there.
Absolutely.
I also remember the first time you showed me how to find the documents that had been that you had to create in BC without it, and it was fascinating to try to dig around. I got lost so quickly. Having them all over there on the side and just being able to view immediately was is I think such a powerful part of what the platform does. Okay, so I'm gonna take over sharing again here. Yeah, what you guys have done, what you're doing there, and continuing to do. I know, we even had some new releases and some new capabilities that you guys just added. So for folks out there that if you haven't seen the product recently, or maybe you kind of had talked to us previously for our SalesPad customers or anybody, please re-engage here. We've got some amazing new stuff that we're doing and really taking that BC implementation to the next level for distributors. So ultimately just kind of why does it matter with sales BC, the key here is that you're getting the right solution for your business. We're helping you protect your margin without slowing you down, right? That's in making sure that your quotes are moving fast and that they're profitable, I think is such a big part of it. And I think even Colin, you showed when you were clicking some of those, you could see like 4 or 5 processes going at the same time that somebody literally would have had to have gone in, clicked multiple clicks to hit it, and done all this stuff to sort of get those things to move into those next stages.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt, we've done these click counts and conversions here at Cavallo as well, and I'll just say it's substantial. The amount of time that you save from an individual day to day or throughout a year of actual work is a large number. We can tailor that per business, but yeah, it's definitely impressive the amount of time that we're
Yeah.
saving.
Yeah, that's what that automation, certainly is a big part of that to drive that efficiency and avoid mistakes. Even
Yeah,
something as simple as that promo, right? You flashed onto there with just clicking a button, that promo got added that could have very easily been forgotten because it's not a standard procedure or they just implemented it that day or something like that, right? Which again goes to empowering your sales team, right? You're giving them confidence that what they're doing is going to be right because you had the margin check that came in. Hey, you're selling this at a lower margin. They know that they push it to the process. I think that's a big piece too. And when somebody calls in to find that status, that's a big deal. And I know this is the one you love so much, building your workflows, right? Not it's not someone else's. It's for you. It's for your organization. It's a no code, builder. You can make changes to that on the fly. It seems like it's
yeah.
super easy to do that.
Yeah, yeah. If I have one thing to add here, I mean, I've been in the shoes of an IT individual and ops individual as well, and talking to them and solving their pains with this product has been very interesting to hear them, go from essentially describing themselves as paper pushers from the C-suite down to the partner and back, and letting them drive that change has been super impactful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, The other one, obviously, another big one is just gaining visibility. I mean, I think that was pretty clear, both from the individual salesperson as well as, managers of just, hey, where's things at in the process? And even, nothing is perfection, knowing, hey, this is where it seems to get slowed down. We need to add another change in here. There's so much that you can gain from having that end-to-end visibility. And then I think the other one that the other piece that you love too, as you've talked about it, is, in so many situations, the standard operating procedure is, like I said, it's a laminated PDF that gets on your desk, and I gotta print new ones every time we make a change. And if Joe's gone, he's the one who knows everything. We're in trouble because he went on vacation and we need to make a change. And this is a big part of sort of codifying your standard operating procedures.
Yeah, without a doubt. We have a very powerful solution right now that's very user grade UX, I'll say. Anyone can go in plain English, make changes and understand the process. And we're going to continue to add to that with things like being able to visualize that process even better in the future. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. The sneak peeks of that are pretty cool. You guys that are out there, come talk to us. Colin's got some really cool stuff coming with some of that stuff. We can't show it to you now, but we'll get there. So ultimately the goal here is, and I think what we want to imply here is, BC is a great platform. But for distributors, to make it work for you, for your quote to cash workflow, for that sales process workflow, a solution like SalesPad for BC is key. And we're not just saying that, right? The numbers tell the story. With SalesPad, our distributors see a 4 to 5x increase in average action efficiency through one-click actions. So this is one where you've said you've taken 15, 20, 25 clicks down to one click in a single instances.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right again. And I'm being generous to the system because I'm counting one click for every submit from Cavallo side when in reality we can do one click and run every automation if we wanted to. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
The other thing we see is generally about a 30 to 50% reduction in queue resolution time. And manual inspection is effectively eliminated. I mean, this is a huge one, right? I mean, you're not sitting there with stuff in queue and different queues and different people relying upon to go and make a check to move it from place to place. I think this is one that you said a lot of customers are fascinated by how fast stuff is getting through the queues.
Yeah, again, having the emails go out back and forth has been a huge time saver for folks. They know instantly whether they have something to do or not. We'll take them directly to the order and they can make educated decisions. We'll surface all that data and allow them to make the decision right then and there with a business process that's tailored to them, right? It's not just
Yeah.
Dean approves at $500, Colin approves at 1,000. It really takes into account every single, condition that you could possibly need for your business in PC.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then I think the other this is a cool one because, as you said, someone who's been in IT and operations, someone who's, you want to be working on strategic aspects of your organization and moving things forward. When you can look at it and say, hey, I'm saving, 40 plus hours a week through automation, that's me being able to go and do other things besides, I think, what did you call it, paper pushing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's
that's
yeah.
go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's exactly true. 40 plus hours again, being generous, and what we've seen is a lot of folks bringing their process from their legacy systems first over to Business Central, and then tailoring that with automations from our solution. And so, even just bringing their legacy system over and having those queues as their process, having business rules allows them to kind of focus on each individual step as its own piece of the pie and be super efficient at just that. And then you layer
Yeah,
on that automations, it just gets even faster.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I believe that you have an ROI tool that you can utilize, and I know it's not the entire ROI of the platform. It's very focused on sort of more of a customer's kind of step-by-step process. But you can basically work with a customer, they give you the information about their organization. You walk them through and you say, hey, based upon how you're doing this today, this is how many steps it would be. This is how much we can save, how much time, how much effort, et cetera, we can save you, and how much that could potentially show you in ROI.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. We do have that tool at our disposal, and really it hammers home just automations and how much time you can save with automations compared to the money that it would also save that employee based on their pay. And so it really brings it all home using these data points that Dean has on screen, showing you, do these automations apply to you? Yes or no? How often? And then taking that into account with your business's actual pay per role. So super
Yeah.
intriguing, and it's definitely not everything we're even offering. It's just one piece of the pie that really tends to shock people at how much time they can save.
That's amazing. Well, I think we titled this complete order control, and I think you've definitely shown that here for us, and shown
Appreciate
that
that.
for the folks here. With that, I think we do have a couple of questions for folks. If you have any more questions, please go ahead and feel free to submit those. I will get started with the ones that we have so far. Actually, I think you might have covered this, but I think it would be good to cover it again. Mentioned I have other ISVs like Avalara for my taxes. How do you interact with those solutions, or how do how do you work with those?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. So we do have the integrated fields feature. It's part of custom fields, but it comes out of the box with mission control, which is super exciting. And effectively, that allows you to take your entire tech stack, all of your different systems that you're working with that have fields that they're putting into the ERP, and bring them into our system. So again, taking into account every single different ISV, their fields, and giving you again complete order control by allowing you to plug those into your workflow or build business rules around it.
That's amazing. I love hearing this question because I know we've got a couple of SalesPad customers here online. So we're currently a SalesPad customer and considering migrating to BC. How does that work?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So we've been partnering with folks on SalesPad for I think around 20 years now, maybe even more than that. And so some of these customers have been using SalesPad, using Great Plains in their process for a long time. And we understand there's a challenge there of letting go of Great Plains. We're here to support you if you want to stay on it as well. I'll say that. But if you do make that decision for your business to move to a cloud solution like Business Central, please engage with your sales rep and get someone like myself or any of our sales engineers on the call. What we really like to do is start to dig into your SalesPad workflow. Staple me to an order. Tell me about your SalesPad environment. What sorts of add-ons or customizations have you done? And we even have consultants that will also do that for you and can go through the SalesPad environment, give you a readout of what you have currently today, so that when you're talking to your Business Central partner, you can have educated conversations. Now, that said, we do like to be a part of that phase one conversation because every single SalesPad customer I've talked to has made the same comment. Workflow is my business process. I don't want to lose my workflow. And we'll help you port that over to Business Central. We'll be able to help recreate that as close to SalesPad as possible and also give you suggestions on things like our WMS tool if you're leaving it for whatever reason, or the different things like Case Tracker. We'll be able to give you suggestions, intelligent suggestions based on ISVs that we've worked with in the space. And we can, again, work with your Microsoft partner to coordinate whatever that best solution will be for you. So, want to reiterate again, if you're staying on GP, great. We're going to support SalesPad.
Yeah.
If you do make that leap, we have a solution for you as well. We're here to make that as easy of a transition as possible and make sure that you're actually going to end up in Business Central in a better situation than you're leaving Great Plains in. And so, yeah, Dean, that would be my answer is please reach out to your account representative, get one of us on the call, and we love working with you guys. So we'd be very eager to help you make that next step.
And I want to thank the questionnaire because it gives me a nice segue into next week's webinar, September 25th. If you haven't registered for that webinar, it's de-risk your implementation of BC. It will have aspects of migration as well as folks who maybe are new to BC, maybe not a SalesPad customer, but all of it sort of is in the same frame that you mentioned. It's understanding that the workflow is the lifeblood, and that's getting that right, getting that attuned, and getting the complete control of that is and control of the order is key.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I think that's all the questions we had. Thank you, Colin. Thank all of you for spending part of your day with us. We hope to see you all at future webinars. Again, we have that one next week that I think would be key if you've liked this one. I encourage you to visit our events page, cavallo.com events schedule. You'll be able to register for all those webinars and view recordings, including this one. If you'd like to explore your organization specific needs further or have any questions about what you heard today, please contact your account manager for us folks that are customers or send an email to marketing@cavallo.com. Lastly, there's going to be a short survey when you exit the webinar. We would greatly appreciate your feedback. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, thank you, Colin. The
Yeah.
demo and conversation was amazing. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you all.